lead 2025 with a lot of intention behind all your actions. On the menu today at Sarah's Soju Cafe is herbal tea, so grab your mugs and let's chat about why 2025 won't be your year. Welcome back, Soju Shotties, to another episode of Soju with Sarah. I'm your host, Sarah, and welcome to our cozy corner on the internet where we talk about all things adulthood and navigating the trials and tribulations of growing older and reflecting on that every single week. So welcome to Soju Fridays if this is your first time here, and also if this is your a billionth time here. Today is actually an interesting episode if you're new because it is the last episode of the year, and so I kind of wanted to use this time and this space to create an episode that's kind of the culmination of everything we've talked about this year. And so what better than to do year-end reflections and 2025 playbook on how to make it the best year yet. I cannot believe it's already been a half year with you guys. If you guys have been here from the start, or even if you guys jumped in midway through, I just cannot believe we've done so many episodes on this podcast and been through so much. If you guys watched the last episode, you know we've made some slight improvements to the podcast setup and the studio space. It's starting to feel a little more homey and coming together. I spent maybe like 3 hours trying to rearrange things and put posters where they belong. I do want the podcast space to be slightly different than how it used to look because I do think the shelf above, if you go to some of our older episodes, it was a little bit cluttered. So open to input if you guys have any, but this is how things are coming together. Before we get started, we got a little drink of the day in our not soju cup, and I actually have some tea in here. I don't know if this is caffeinated, but I'll find out later. But we have what I think is digestive tea from Yours Tea. It's nice and hot because it's kind of chilly in this apartment. And yeah, cheers. It's funny because I made some coasters in the pottery studio before I moved, but I remember when I first started the podcast in like the middle of the year, I had this goal of creating one new mug for every single podcast episode, and very soon I realized how unrealistic that was. It's funny though, because I thought I would at least have maybe like 1 or 2 more mugs, but so far I only have this not soju mug that I've made, and then also the classic pink soju mug if you've gone on other episodes and seen me use that, and then also this one white mug. I need to find a new pottery studio near me and try to like grind out some more mugs in the new year. Getting into today's episode, I actually wanted James to be here. So James is my co-host / partner in life and love of my life. He is unfortunately traveling for the holidays and will be reconvening on Christmas Day. And I am very lonely in this apartment, and I know James has not been on the podcast for a while. Maybe I'll try to snag him if I can for the intermission, but most likely he will not make it in time, but he'll definitely be in the new year. So for those juicy J's out there that have been waiting for his appearance, he is going to come back. Do not worry. If you've noticed, the title of this podcast episode is called Why 2025 Won't Be Your Year. And before you guys come at me, I wanted to explain myself a little bit because I know that title can be kind of misleading. This is not to say that we won't accomplish and achieve and experience wonderful things in 2025. I think we will all go into the year with that mentality of wanting to have new experiences and become a better version of ourselves. But more so, I picked this title because I think that we shouldn't treat improvement and self-improvement and growth especially as yearly cycles. I think it's a constant practice nowadays, whether or not because of social media or other reasons, to say, oh, next year will be your year, and oh, this year is going to be my year. And I think that trains us to think about improvements and accomplishments and different things in cycles, like yearly cycles, which I think becomes unhealthy when we hit like the midpoint of the year and we think, oh, half of the year is already gone and I haven't accomplished anything or I haven't hit my goals. It conditions us to push away this mindset that growth is continuous and reaching our goals and having accomplishments operate on a yearly cycle. And so that is the meaning behind this title. Feel free to share your opinions if you disagree with me in the comments, but I do want to take this time in today's episode to kind of talk about growth and bettering ourselves for the new year. I think there's a lot that I've learned in 2024 that I wanted to share in a little brief segment. I've continuously been seeing the 24 lessons that I've learned in 2024 on social media. And so I think that kind of inspired this a little bit. My first life lesson is that if you're constantly chasing something and you're chasing goals and not enjoying the process and not finding fulfillment, enjoying the little things along the way, then you're never going to be happy, because once you reach the end milestone and your end goal, you're going to find a new milestone and a new goal and something to fixate on and set your eyes on. You're going to skip all the little joys and the little moments in your life that should bring you joy, but you choose to gloss over because you're too focused on the future. For me, especially at the beginning of the year, I overloaded myself with so many things. There were things that I wanted to fix. There were things that I had set my mind on, like goals I had for myself. And I ended up burning out because I was doing everything all at once instead of taking things one step at a time and one goal, one project, one situation at a time. I kind of overloaded everything at once because I was so focused on reaching my end goal as soon as possible for all of my goals. And that's kind of why I started my fitness journey, my physical therapy journey for my back pain, my pottery journey, and then also my podcast planning all at the beginning of the year because I wanted to reach the end milestone as quickly as I could. And I shortly realized after a couple of months of doing all that I was overwhelming myself with a lot of the end state of things. So I was constantly asking myself, when is my back pain going to be fixed? When am I going to be more in shape? When is the podcast going to be ready? And when can I film my first episode? Instead of focusing on the small bits that I was enjoying throughout. I think the same with my pottery journey. I think it was very easy for me to get frustrated by the early stages of pottery where I couldn't really center my pottery wheel and I couldn't really create big pieces yet. And I remember I was very frustrated the first time that I was trying to throw on the wheel because I thought that something like pottery would come pretty naturally to me because I've always been a crafty person, and especially because I love learning new art forms. It was a learning process and I had to go in every single day after work trying to practice my throwing before I actually could start throwing. It's again like something after the fact that I looked back and I saw all these little trinkets and small pieces that were irregular in shape and they were smaller than, a usual mug. But I really loved those pieces because those were the tiny glimmers of growth and like progress that I was seeing throughout the journey. And so that's all to say, there's small things to look forward to and small things to enjoy in the process of reaching your goals. And sometimes we forget to take a look at those and like really, really appreciate the things that come out of our journey. And I think when we are able to really appreciate the current moment, that's when reaching our milestones will be the most fulfilling, because once we reach the milestones, that current moment will be extremely rewarding and extremely wonderful because we're taking the time to actually appreciate it. So that was a little bit of a ramble for the first life lesson that I had, but I wanted to say that because I think I have gone through a whole whirlwind of like hobbies and projects and little like life journeys this year, and I feel like I've taken a lot from it. The second lesson that I've learned is to stop caring what other people think. I think in my younger years, in my early adulthood, I sought a lot of validation externally and I wanted people to see me a certain way and like find me cool or find me interesting or find me pretty, because I think a lot of my confidence stemmed from hearing it from other people. This year was really crucial for me because this was the first year that I made active choices and decisions with my life, including saying no to things. And that's something I feel like as you get older, you start learning how to say no. I've mentioned this in other episodes, but saying no is such a powerful thing for yourself to protect your peace, protect your space, and also know where you stand in terms of your priorities and what you want out of your life. And so for me, I feel like I've kind of shed this desire to always be pleasing other people, always be seeking validation from other people. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what other people think of you. In certain occasions, yes, like if you're in a job interview and someone's doing a behavioral interview with you and seeing if you have good reactions to things, I think that's definitely a situation where it matters. And in that same vein, I think this year I learned that it really doesn't matter to be quote unquote cool. The craving and desire to be cool, which I wanted to create an episode on being cool, but sometime in the new year, I think I'll probably make an episode about that. But I think for me, this desire to be cool or just to be seen as someone who's interesting and unique has honestly been a little bit of a distraction for me, like a distraction from discovering who I am, finding my own interests, kind of like moving to my own upbeat. And I think this ties into the whole wanting to dress a certain way because it's cool and trendy, and wanting to present a certain way because that's what's cool online. And I think this year I've grown a lot, especially from having a podcast and being able to share my opinions and seeing other people that relate to me. I just feel like there's so much more value in being authentic and true to yourself and being the person that you want to be, rather than fitting into and conforming to like this model of what is cool and who is cool. And so that is my life lesson, which is being cool doesn't matter at all. This year I've gotten a lot of clarity on who I am and who I'm growing into, to be honest. I think the other life lesson is find your bigger picture earlier rather than later. I was watching this video by Izzy Sealy on YouTube, and also her husband Ali Abdal on YouTube. They're both like doctors turned productivity YouTubers, and I was watching both of their videos because they were sharing their mindsets on success and goals and chasing your dreams and having career aspirations. And they were both talking about this concept of seeing the bigger picture, and they're moving on to this next chapter of their life where they've gotten married and now they're having a kid, which is so exciting for them. And I think something that Izzy said that really resonated with me, because I was listening to her story and her journey about her career and how she's put things on hold because she's pregnant. It really struck a chord with me that a lot of my intentions and goals the last couple of years have been very career oriented and focused on achieving certain things within my 20s. And I forget to see the bigger picture and things that I care about, which have always been like family and happiness and wellness, and I've kind of like put that on the back burner. Something that both Izzy and Ali said that really stuck with me is that there's a bigger picture to a lot of things, and for some people it is building out a family, and it's really easy to kind of delay those things because you are focused on building out your career, especially when you're young. The bigger picture is probably not what you're focused on at the moment. A bigger picture that I'm starting to see with my life and my career is that I want to have some purpose in some form. I've been working as a software engineer for the last couple of years, and it's really been very valuable to me in terms of learning technical skills and being in a corporate setting. But I think through the podcast and other parts of my life, I've learned that having some form of impact on people is really where I feel like I have the most value. I haven't really figured out what form that takes, and I think the podcast is definitely the form that I'm really focused on right now, and I treat this podcast like my baby, but I also love the people that listen and the people that write in and watch. One of the things that I think is really important is finding your why and not your what. Something that I saw on Reddit recently that I wrote down is someone said, figure out what's important to you and plan your life accordingly. So that is my last tip. And now moving on to 2025. For this section, I kind of just wrote down little tidbits and steps and life advice that I think is really valuable going into 2025 and entering a new year. The first is build systems, not goals. If you think about any mechanical or technological device, it's all little components and this whole system of things that operate in unison to keep the machine working and to keep the machine running and operating and doing its job. And whenever there's a glitch or a faulty component or something just stops working in that system, everything else starts slowing down, lagging, breaking, having bugs, and we're the same. So systems can come in different forms. There can be physical systems, like I know people love to organize their pantries and their cabinets and their clothes in certain systems so that it's more efficient for them. Or it could be digital, like I know some friends, and myself included, love to use Notion to organize our lives and like keep routines and automate things around what we do, especially for work related things. I think like digital systems are especially great. And other people like to have written systems and trackers and things where they can reference what they've done and reference their backlog of things. There's always a system in place behind every operating person, company, technology. I think systems, especially great systems, really, really propel you towards your goal because they help you be more efficient. Something that I'm doing to improve my system around my podcasting is I'm actually trying to automate something. So I bought this like $10 smart outlet the other day, and I connected all the podcast lights to that, and every single time I want to turn on all the lights, I can just press a button and all of them turn on, which is so efficient because back in the day, or I guess like a couple of weeks ago, I was having to manually set up every single light and turn it on and place it in the right spot. Another example is with cooking. I feel like I love to have systems around cooking so that I feel less intimidated by cooking, but I try to put all my cooking utensils and cooking ingredients and important things for cooking, like my oils, right next to the stove so that it makes it easier when I'm cooking and I missed an ingredient to have it just right next to it. Even meal prepping. Meal prepping can be a part of your system, especially if you're a busy working person. And I just know there's so many different ways you can optimize your life and create better systems around you to kind of help you with your everyday or even larger goals and projects that you're working on. The next thing that I think is really important for 2025 is creating some check-in with yourself. This is one of the tips that my boyfriend and I gave in a previous episode about our relationship and our 7-year relationship, if you guys want to go check that out. But having bi-weeklies was very helpful for us early on in our relationship, especially when we were learning about each other for the first time and learning about our quirks and habits and how we like to operate. But I think translating that into your own relationship with yourself, I think at least for me, I forget to have check-ins with myself and I kind of just push myself through hardship and difficult times and challenges and change in life without taking some time to see how I'm doing and to kind of understand where my body's at and where my mental state's at. And check-ins can take so many different forms. Some people like to journal and take that time to write down their thoughts and kind of reflect. Other people like to just sit and ruminate and just be alone with their thoughts and kind of learn and adapt through that. And for some people, it kind of looks like going on ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT about their situation and emotions. And I've definitely started doing that, which is really interesting because I never thought I'd be the type of person to be like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm feeling sad. Like, what should I do with my life right now? But I think we all have different ways of checking in, and creating a consistent or more consistent schedule around check-ins with yourself, I think can really improve your mental state, but also improve your goal setting state. I really want to do an episode on AI one day because I feel like it's starting to slowly creep into our lives, and I really wasn't expecting it to be so quick, but I'm also now a user of AI, which I also didn't think I'd hop onto so quick, but I think AI is so interesting and definitely something worth talking about. So maybe in a different episode. The next step in 2025 is be intentional. And according to Google, because I wanted to find like a good explanation for this, being intentional means making conscious choices about how you spend your time and energy to achieve your goals. And a lot of the times for me, I think I've fallen victim to constantly doing things without realizing or like thinking about the intention behind it. And that's also why I feel like I spent a lot of my 20s just chasing different things and doing different things that didn't even matter to me. I think I've been the type of person to have broad priorities in life. And so it's always been family, career, friends, and building and nurturing those relationships. This year is the first year that I've come face to face with thinking about what exactly I want out of all of these categories and buckets. Because early on when I thought about friends, for example, it was more I want to have friends rather than why do I want to have friends? And this year I've definitely given myself more time to think about why I want friends, because nowadays, my approach at looking at friends is I want people who will be there in my life and who I'll be in their lives for, whether it's for big changes and periods of growth and periods of change. And I want people that I really resonate with and relate to. But earlier on, my intentionality with friendship was kind of lost to this idea of, oh, I just want to focus on building friendships. And I think the same is true for me with career. I'm kind of at a crossroads nowadays. And this is more personal and private, and definitely for my podcast community, not for my vlog community. I do love my vlog community, but sometimes I feel like I don't have enough time to share what's on my mind, and not everyone's really receptive to what I think. I have been at a crossroads with my career because I've always thought, climbing the corporate ladder is important and having career growth is important there. But I've always also been a creative person. And through the years of doing both creative stuff and also doing my job, I've realized how unsustainable it is to just continue doing all of this, especially when I start having kids, which I don't know exactly when that will be. But I've been kind of at a crossroads because I'm faced with more of a decision of do I want to climb the corporate ladder, or do I want to try something for myself? This is maybe the first time I've kind of like vocalized this on any form of social media, but I've really been thinking about taking some time to just explore the creative side of myself, because I've kind of pushed that off for the last couple of years. I know with creative stuff, it's also something I can always keep as a hobby, but in the back of my head, there's always that lingering thought of what can I do with my career that is more creative, more impactful, more meaningful to me. And so that's been on my head. And next year, I think, is when I will actually have to really think about that. But just wanted to kind of share that little tidbit, because that kind of relates to our point where being wishy-washy with your intention behind your priorities leads you to situations where you feel discontent with everything you're doing. The thing I've learned this year is you can't do everything you want to set your head to do something great. You have to give it time and let it breathe and let it sit and let it come to life, because I've always been kind of like teetering between different ideas and different wants in my career. It's led me to periods of burnout, periods of dissatisfaction with where I'm at with my career. I do want to say though, I'm very thankful for everything I have in my career right now. Like, I'm at a place where I never thought I would be when I was younger, and I've obviously worked hard to get here, but a certain part of it is also that I got really lucky, and I'm very thankful for the support that I've gotten even through like my online platform for different periods of my life. But at a certain point, I think you reach this decision time where you have to like decide what you want to do with yourself, and you can't keep being wishy-washy and not having intentionality behind what you're doing. So that's where I'm at a little bit. That was maybe a little bit of oversharing, but that specific step is to lead 2025 with a lot of intention behind all your actions. This next step actually comes from the episode that I was mentioning at the beginning, which is called Stop Waiting for 2025. You guys should check it out. I think it was a great episode. But this one is to set anti-goals. And anti-goals, like I mentioned in the other episode, is basically stuff that you don't want to do. So patterns and behaviors that you see yourself doing and see yourself going through that you don't want for the next year. And so instead of setting goals, you're setting anti-goals and actively keeping track of things that you want to avoid. This could be anything from snacking, if you like to snack a lot and you want to curb your snacking behaviors. Or it could be something like sleeping late, because I know I am a culprit of that. I tend to sleep pretty late, especially when I have things to do. That's something that's on my anti-goals for next year. But the other side of this is that you can set non-physical anti-goals. So things like being a perfectionist or overthinking, like that can be on your list of things that you want to avoid for next year. And I think the reason why writing down your anti-goals is really valuable is it makes you reflect on the bad behaviors you have and actually makes you think about what you need to work on and improve and fix. The next step is rich life budgeting. With this, I kind of mean abundance mindset. So if we're rich budgeting, then it's kind of thinking about where you want abundance in your life next year. And so it could be travel, it could be family time, it could be personal growth in your career, just kind of mapping out and doing the exercise of mapping out what you want to do with your time and where you want to kind of like budget and allocate your time and resources for next year. And if you want to do a financial exercise, by all means, you can also do that, like budgeting your money and budgeting your wealth. But I think if we're talking about abundance mindset, which we also talked about in an episode on scarcity mindset, it's very healthy to think about things in abundance, what you want in abundance, but also what you have in abundance, and to plan accordingly based on what you want in your rich budgeting list. Something that is kind of related to this is to start acting the way that you want to be. So start acting like your future self and start presenting the behaviors and the mindset and operating as if you have the abundance and the things that you have on your rich budgeting worksheet. I think this helps because when you start acting like the way that you want to be in the future, it really helps you get to that point where these behaviors and intentions and systems become habits, and you don't need to like force the way you're acting, and you don't need to force the way you're thinking. You kind of just fall into that mindset. And so acting like your future self and your better self is the next step. And the very last thing that I wanted to say is to have gratitude and positivity. It's so important to start the year with positivity and gratitude, because if we're thinking about karma and like push-pull energies, whatever you're putting out into the universe, you will attract back. That is my spiritual spiel of the day. But I think it's really important to always be thankful, always be happy, and not always be happy. You can be sad, but to always try to find the joys in life and find the positives in things and see things as the glass half full. I know sometimes I'm a hypocrite because I get into down periods and I think about all the sad things, but I think reaching for positivity is always going to lead you to better things in life. And I always preach that, even though it is hard to stand by that all the time. And the very last thing that I wanted to do is a little bit of a life advice session. I got some life advice from Reddit, but I also have some life advice that I wanted to share myself too. Going into the new year, these are some things that I think we should prioritize. This section I will call Sarah's practical mom advice, because sometimes I start to feel like I'm becoming a mother. Like I feel like I'm so motherly now with the way that I think about things and the way that I care about people. And I always kind of like, even with James, my boyfriend, I like to give him life lessons sometimes, and I know it just stems from like how my parents used to raise me and like give me life lessons too. So these are my practical motherly life lessons that I wanted to briefly share. I promise this section will be very quick. The first is exercise is very important. I know when we're younger, it's easy to deprioritize exercise. It's really, really easy to not focus on our bodies and not take care of ourselves, but it is so important. Like it actually makes a difference. And in the period that I was working out very consistently, I noticed every part of my life shift. Like my mental health, my skin looked better, my body looked better, I felt more confident. Exercise is the easiest, free, excluding gym membership, thing that you can do to remedy some of the things in your life. I know with mental health, for example, James likes to run whenever he's feeling down, because immediately after running, he gets this adrenaline rush and he gets all these endorphins and he feels so much better, especially when he's going through like hard times and a lot of stress. Kind of on the vein of that, you should also always wear sunscreen. I talk about this all the time. You don't want to be like the 50-year-old with wrinkly hands because you didn't wear sunscreen, and wear sunscreen on your hands. That is practical advice that I need you guys to do, because your hands start showing your age once you're older. So even if you have the most luscious skin when you're younger and you look phenomenal because you're sunscreening throughout and you're 50 and you have great skin on your face, your hands will show how old you are. And if you watch The Substance, you know that her hands are the first to go. So take that piece of advice. The next advice is the best days are sometimes the ones where nothing is happening. I know in life we're always chasing change and we're always chasing improvement and seeing new things every day. I find nowadays that the most peaceful times and the times that I'm least stressed are the ones when nothing's happening. And so nice days where I can just be at home with my family and do nothing, kind of just talk to my friends. There's just simple days where nothing's stressing me out, nothing's pressuring me. And those are the days that I honestly enjoy the most. But when things are not happening, it's not a sign of you being stagnant or nothing going right in your life. Sometimes the simple days are the best. And then this last practical life advice is, I think I'm going to patent this, because when I wrote it down, I was like, this is a good one. Do your best and let the universe do the rest. I think a lot of the times we're so worried about controlling everything and wanting everything to go and happen as smoothly as possible and go as planned. But all we can do as humans, I think, is just to do our best. And sometimes things fall into place because the universe allows it. And other times things don't go as intended, and that's okay. As long as you do your best and you try your best, you open the doors for the universe to give you whatever opportunities and whatever things are meant to happen. So yeah, do your best and let the universe do the rest. And then with the final few minutes of the episode, I wanted to do some Reddit life advice, because I love reading life advice on Reddit for some reason, and I have been wanting to ask you guys for life advice too. So if you have any for 2025, please leave it down in the comments below. I would love to read them. Some life advice from Reddit. The first one is be a thermostat, not a thermometer. And this one I really like because it's kind of about how you approach life. If you think about thermometers report the temperature. But if you think about thermostats change the temperature. And I like this because it makes me think about how I can change and have impact in the world rather than just following what other people do, and just having a more active stance and a higher impact place in life and mindset around life, I think is very good to start 2025 off with. The next one is be the person that you need in life. And so if you think about how you would treat your partner, your friends, your family, you should always be equally as kind, generous, thoughtful, and caring with yourself too. And I'm trying to speed through this because I know this episode's getting long and I'm running out of battery, but be friendly to yourself, be your best friend and be someone that you would lean on in difficult times. You should protect yourself and your peace and your mind as much as you can. And the last one, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. It's really easy to look at other people's lives. It's really easy to look at other options, other directions in life and think, oh, this might be a better place for me to be. This might be a better direction to head in. This might be someone else's life is so much better than mine. But focusing your energy on watering whatever patch of land and grass that you have is gonna metaphorically create greener leaves, more plants, more life in your little garden. And I think the moral of the story is just to trust yourself and have faith in what you're doing and to continue nurturing the parts of your life that you care about, and that will always flourish and that will always grow and it'll always get better at the end of the day. So yeah, that was the last Reddit life advice. Before I finally end this episode, I want to hear what you guys have for the new year in terms of your resolutions, your thoughts, your mindsets, your attitudes towards 2025. I would love to hear it in the comments, and I hope that this was a fun listen. I'm really excited to start the new year with you guys and begin a new season of life, even though life doesn't come in cycles and seasons. Actually, it does, but I don't think we should treat it as such. Thank you guys for joining me on Soju with Sarah in 2024. This was an amazing year. I really couldn't have imagined a better year with you guys. I love you guys, appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. I hope to see you guys in the new year, and I'll see you guys in 2025. Bye!